Good morning to everyone. We'll make a start. So we're continuing with chapter 6.1 where we left off. So in our last class, we consider things like a web page is like a document. We use HTML to create a web page, to create a website. HTML is a markup language. It is not a programming language. It uses codes called tags. We looked at the uses of HTML. We looked at what is the purpose of a browser. We looked at what is a URL. All those things we looked at in the last class. So today we'll continue with this table. We're looking at the categories of websites. So basically, when you look at a website, it should fall under one of these categories here. It should either be a static website, an editable brochure website, a dynamic website, an e-commerce website, a web application. When you look at a website, it will be under one of these categories here. But then also we have what we can say like types of websites, as we have another table here, description of websites and their use. So this here is basically another category of websites. It kind of looks similar because let me see, this one here has shopping, and that's basically the same as e-commerce, and the dynamic is kind of similar to community and social networking and so on. So let's explain what's the difference between them. So a static website. What is a static website? Well, when you hear the word static, I'm sure you're thinking of something that does not move. So that's basically what this type of website is. It's just like you create a document like a PDF. Like if you have a PDF document, and we know we cannot edit anything inside a PDF document. So similarly, a website is that where it is static, meaning you cannot change anything on this website. We know today, like we have websites like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and so on, Instagram. You can actually make changes to those websites. That's the purpose. You make changes by adding content to it. You put up your pictures, you put up your video, you post a comment. You are basically changing that website. You're adding something to that website, and that is what makes it dynamic. So dynamic is something that's constantly changing, constantly moving. So that is the what it means when something is static, or a website is static, and when a website is dynamic. So if the contents of this website remains generally the same, the content remains generally the same, and in this way it is like an online version of a paper-based brochure. It's like if it's a PDF document, then you're basically looking at a static website. Once the content does not change, you do not have any impact on the content, that is like a static website. It's kind of like I don't want to say like Wikipedia, but if you think about it, Wikipedia, you don't really edit so much of the content on Wikipedia. You just view the information that is on there. Yes, some persons can make edits on Wikipedia, but at the same time it has to go through a lot of processing, and it's generally going to remain that way for unless the information gets updated. So this is not a full static website, but this is the idea of what is a static website. You go on a website, and it's basically for you to read the information, for you to see what is there. It's not for you to comment on anything. It's not for you to post any pictures. Not for you to say anything about the website. It's just for you to read and search for whatever content you're looking for. That is what is meant by a static website. In contrast, a dynamic website now is where You're gonna have here a user can have a login. They can create content. What we mean by content, we mean like pictures, videos, music, um, audio, and you add those contents. You insert images onto these websites. So, like for example, Instagram, Facebook, and so on. Once you can put some form of content on the website, that is what makes it dynamic. So that is the difference there between a static website and a dynamic website. Are you guys clear on that? You guys following?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, what is the editable brochure website? Well, this website is the interactive version of a brochure website. The content is stored as is it updated so that visitors can search for and view past articles, web pages, and other content. So, kind of like static, but in that the content gets updated as new version comes out, and you can read older versions of articles and so on. So that is the editable brochure website. Now next we have an e-commerce website, and this should be familiar to you guys because it's basically websites that you use to do online shopping, to do online payments. So this is a website that is integrated to receive online payments from visitors. So Amazon, eBay, Shine or Sheen, whichever one, and any other website that you use to make online purchases, Etsy and so on, those are called e-commerce websites. That's simple. And then lastly, you have what is called a web application. Now this is what you're going to use on your phone, on your tablet. So a web app provides push notifications and can be added to a device's home screen without having to download it from the App Store. Now this is an important point to take note of. What is a web app? Anybody ever heard this term before? A web app?
Yes, sir.
What's your idea of it?
Sir, isn't it just applications that you can use via like a website instead of actually downloading the application onto your device?
Mm-hmm. That's basically it. But are you still using a application, or you just access it through a browser or something?
Sir, I think you're still using an application.
Okay, very good. Well, it actually depends, but if you're using a mobile device, if you're using a mobile device, it's gonna be an application. So we know some applications, like for example, Facebook. When you download Facebook, the Facebook app, the Messenger app, the Instagram app, they actually take up a lot of storage. When you're constantly browsing on Facebook, constantly browsing on Instagram, they're actually downloading all of those pictures to your phone. It might not be the full quality, but they're gonna download it so that like a certain quality of it, so that when you're scrolling through, you get a better experience. So that when you're scrolling through, you don't have to go and re-download back all of those files. It's already there in your phone, so you see the content faster. That's a normal application. But you have devices that don't have much storage on them. Like for instance, those blue phones, the Alcatel phones, the Samsung A31, the A30. They don't have a lot of storage in the first place. So when they're gonna download this full application, it takes up a majority of their storage, and the device can't function. So what they develop is an application called a web application, and the purpose of this application is to make basically an internet connection. And it's like if you're using the service, you're using Facebook through a browser, but you're still using it through an application. Any of you ever saw when you go in the Play Store, there's a Facebook Lite,
Yes, sir.
and I think if you search Lite, Lite, you should see other version. There's a Messenger Lite also. There's a TikTok Lite also. There's an Instagram Lite also. If you search the word Lite, Lite, in your Play Store, you're gonna find those web applications versions of the main application. And like I said, the purpose of these light applications, so LITE, the purpose of these light applications or web application is so that it doesn't download, take up a lot of your storage. So if the main application, for instance, takes up 100 megabytes of data, when you're installing it, the light version might only take up 2 megabytes, and that's all that is installed in your phone. So you have now a difference of 98, and that can be used to some other purpose. So
Excuse me, sir. Would this like affect the features on the app?
it kind
Like,
of, yes, it's a good, that's a good question. It kind of would, but the company would try to um, put things in place so that there isn't much of a difference. Because what you guys can do, you can actually test it out. Download Facebook Lite or Instagram Lite, and what you're gonna notice is that it kind of looks like if you're using a website. That's how they make it to look like. Well, that is how it will look like because you are using the website version. You're using a web version. So as Tisani mentioned, some, not all, some of the services might not be there because you're using a web version, and because it's how should I put it? Um, it's a version of the service that not much person would use, so they might not prioritize getting all the features there right away. Eventually, all the features might reach, but it might not be in the very beginning. All the latest and greatest features that you would get on the main application. But it depends on the company. If the company is really interested in their customers, they would ensure that this light version has all of the service like the main version. It depends on the company. But sometimes it might not, because all the person wants is the basic features, like like for instance Facebook. Sometimes all the person wants is the ability to scroll through Facebook, see person's pictures, comment on the pictures. The person doesn't want much of anything else, so they might not add those things. But like I said, it all depends on the company that is creating it. But going back to the main point once again, um, a web application is basically like you're downloading a light application. It's a smaller version of the main application. When you're using that service, you're basically using a web version of that service. Anyone with any other questions?
Sir, so is it like a link that carries you to the web version, or does it just like carries you to the internet itself and you use it from there?
It's an application, so that's the first thing you should note. That even though we call it a web app, it's still an application that you have to download. So you're still opening this application, like if it's a normal app, and you're gonna be in this app as you use the service. But just that the appearance of it is gonna look, excuse me, is gonna look different. The appearance of it is gonna kind of look like a website version of the service, but you're still gonna be in this application. You're gonna use the service in the application, but just that the appearance of it, the layout of it, gonna be slightly different. That's all.
Okay, sir.
Let me see if I Google Facebook likes, if they can give me yeah. So this is kind of like what Facebook Lite used to look like. I don't know if they updated as by now, but this is actually a few years ago. This is how I can't remember when last I used the website version, but a few years ago, this is what the website version actually looked like, and this is what the web app version looks like, because it would have been almost similar to the actual website. Yeah, so this is kind of what it looks like. Well, could be from a few years ago. Not sure if it is updated as yet. We also have, where's my search bar? Let's see. So the main aim is that it still looks like if you're using the application, but just that the goal or the purpose is so that they try to minimize. The advantage of it is that they try to minimize data. They try to minimize how much data you're going to be storing on this device. So this is what Twitter web apps looks like. Give me a second. Let me close this window. Yes. Any other questions? You can also check out Instagram Lite. Yeah, if you notice this version here, Instagram Lite, almost looks like the app version. Almost looks like it. It kind of does look like it, because it has like the same layout. So like I said, it all depends on the company, and if the company can get it to look like the app. Alright, so what we looked at so far, we looked at what is a static website, what is an editable brochure website, what is a dynamic website, what is an e-commerce website, and what is a web application. So today, a majority, if not all, of our websites and most websites that persons create today, they're going to be dynamic websites. Now, here's a question. Can a e-commerce website be a dynamic website?
Yes, sir.
Correct. That is correct. Because remember, the idea of a dynamic website is that the content is changing, it's updating, it is moving. You can put pictures. So for e-commerce website, you can actually be a seller on some of these websites. Like for example, Amazon, eBay. You can sell something on these websites. So the fact that you can add your pictures, you can add your video, you can add your content and so on, and design the page to suit your needs to sell this product, that makes it dynamic. But if the website is not going to change, it's not going to update, it's not going to move, nothing's going to really change about the website, then it's going to be static. So these categories of website is not a one fit, one all category. A website can have be in multiple categories. So like for example, a web app can be both e-commerce and at the same time a dynamic website. Because remember, the web app, it could be like for example Amazon, like an Amazon Lite version of their application, and then it's going to be dynamic because the content is always changing, updating, and so on. Good. So those are the categories of websites and the differences between them. Any questions before we move on? right, no questions. So continuing. Websites are popular because they cater to all types of audiences. So what are some purposes of websites? We have for educational purposes, entertainment, sports, informational purposes. Now, knowing the purpose of a website therefore sets the tone for its content and organization. So when it when we get into actually designing a website, um, that's gonna be this part of the chapter here, planning your web pages. Um, I'm gonna list a few steps as to what you need to do to develop your website, and this should actually be step number one that you're seeing here. So this should be step number one when it comes to creating a website. Your first step is to know what is the purpose of your website. Why am I creating this website? Am I creating it to educate persons? Am I creating it to entertain persons? Am I creating it just to share information? What is the purpose of this website? That is the first point when you're creating a website. So knowing the purpose of a website therefore sets the tone for its content and organization. So when you know why you're creating a website, that will be able to tell you how you should create the layout, what color you should use, what content you should put on the website. All of that will be possible when you know the purpose. So creating a website that is formal or informal reflects the seriousness or carefree impression that visitors will use to decide if they continue to browse your pages. Now, when you have a website, like for example YouTube, Facebook, and so on, you want persons to stay on your website. You want persons to continue to view the content. So that is why creating the layout, using good design, using good colors, using the right colors, all can determine if a person stays on your website or they do not. Like for example, if you were to ever Google poor website design, you're going to see some examples. This one here. Now, some of you might be thinking, I don't see anything wrong with this website. Anybody thinking that?
Sir, that's just evil. Whoever designed this is just evil.
So, some persons might be thinking, I don't see anything wrong with this website. And it could be true. Because, what is the purpose of the website? Maybe the purpose of the website is for children. Or for a certain type of persons. But at the same time, when you're creating a website, even though this might fit that small group of persons, is it only that small group of persons you want to view your website? No, it would not be. You want as much persons as possible, or you want that specific, or it could be that you want that specific group. So when it comes to the purpose, when it comes to creating a website, certain designs, certain colors, certain layouts you would not use because it would not make a person want to stay on your website. So imagine if YouTube, if Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, their design was like this here. Would any of you stay on that website? Would any of you continue to use it? Or you don't want to see? Or imagine if this here was what, Facebook, if this was Twitter, would you continue to use it? Would you find it appealing to use? No. So some persons might. Yes, Akila. Yeah.
Never mind.
Okay. So some persons might, But a majority, you're looking for a majority of persons. A majority of persons, they would not be interested in this kind of design. They would be more interested in a more appealing design. So let's see if, why does my search bar keep disappearing? So what are some good examples of website design? So we have some examples here where you can clearly read the information, you can clearly see information. The website is pleasing to look at. There is no difficulty with straining your eyes, straining your mind, and trying to determine what am I looking at. All of that actually leads to a more effective website. We're actually going to look at all of this in detail later on, but I'm just showing you what makes a website poor in terms of design and what makes it effective in terms of design. And having that design all comes back to knowing what is the purpose of your website. So obviously, if you're gonna have a kids party website, if you're gonna have a party for children, then obviously it's gonna look something like this here. You're gonna see a lot of decorations. You're gonna see a lot of colors. So if you notice now it would be appropriate to add those rainbow of colors because you're targeting children for this kind of party. But if it was like I said, a website that's targeting more persons, a majority of persons, then it might not have been suitable. So knowing what is the purpose of the website plays an important role in the design of the website. So this is a children's party website template. So if you search elderly party websites, will we have so much colors? No. Notice the difference here. Let me see if I get them side by side. Alright. So notice the difference between the two. One has some very bright colors, the right hand side, the children birthday party, some very bright colors, and the elderly party on the left hand side, the colors are a bit more dull. Anybody want to say as to why? Why do you think that's the case?
Sir, I'm not exactly sure why they use more dull colors for the elderly. Bright colors were used for the children's party because they're more attractive and will be more appealing to children's developing mind.
Right. Good. So children, younger persons, they're more attracted to bright colors. That's what attracts us more. If anytime a child sees a dull color, they might say that thing is dead, that thing is boring. But elderly persons, what happens is that they cannot look at bright colors. Not that they cannot, but it'll hurt their eyes. They might get a headache. It can affect their health when they look at too bright colors, when the environment is too bright, when the environment is too noisy, when there's a lot of objects or a lot of elements in the design. It can cause disorientation because they're looking at too much things, they can't comprehend it. Remember, as you get older, you get slower. So these factors you actually have to take into consideration when you're designing. So the purpose of the website on the left hand is for an elderly party. Now these elderly persons, we know that they can't look at too much bright colors because it can affect their eyes. We need some low colors so that they can see the information. What else? We don't have too much information because some of them might not be seeing well. They might not be able to get the information well. So those things you have to take into consideration. Who you're developing the website for, and what would be an appropriate design for those persons. And like I said, it all comes back to knowing what is the purpose. So when you know the purpose, you'll know how to design your website. Alright, any questions before we move on? Alright, so the last thing we're going to look at today is this table here, because I don't want to jump into design. I want to keep that for one class to talk about everything about design and planning your website. So we're going to look at some types of websites. What is the purpose of that website, and what are some examples? So the first type we have here is the entertainment websites. So please don't confuse these here with the categories of website: static, dynamic, e-commerce, and so on. So it's basically like, you can say that these are like the purposes of your website. The purposes for entertainment, for sharing information, for social networking. These are more of the purpose of the website, you can see. Now, firstly, we have entertainment websites. Now, these websites, they use videos, graphics, live streaming to market their products for entertainment. Many online games, video sites such as Adobe Flash software to use Adobe Flash software to display content. So sometimes people call entertainment site Flash websites. So any website that you use to play games on, to stream movies, to watch movies, YouTube, those are all called entertainment websites. So YouTube, Netflix, sports sites like esports and so on. Digicel has one, can't remember the name. Any website that allows you to play online games, those are called entertainment websites. The purpose of that website is to have entertainment. Now, this last point here, Flash websites. Why do we call them Flash websites? Is because some games use a software called Adobe Flash. Some online games use a software called Adobe Flash in order to create and play those games. Any of you ever encountered that? When you go to play an online game, it asks you to install Adobe Flash? Or when you go to play an online game, it asks you to install Java.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, that's an example there. So similarly, like how it asks you to install Java, the website would have asked you to install Adobe Flash. And so those games were called Flash games, or the website would have been a Flash website because it would have used that software entirely. Alright, so our second purpose of websites, corporate websites, also called business websites, which uses the website for marketing and not to conduct business. They're just using it for marketing. We know what is marketing? Does anybody know what is marketing?
Something like advertising.
Right. So, like advertising. So basically promoting your business. Good. So the website provides information to users about the company and can also provide customer support. So it provides information about the company and it gives customer support. So it's just about providing information, building that customer base with the customers, but not giving any actual service. So for example, cxc.org, oup.com, those are examples of corporate websites. Our third description of websites, our third purpose, shopping. Now these e-commerce websites, so if you notice it's using the category title here, these e-commerce websites, these are e-commerce websites selling products. Users can browse and select products, pay online, with methods such as credit or PayPal. So examples: Amazon, eBay, Etsy, and so on. So it's important for you to know what are the categories of websites, what are the purpose of websites, and what are examples of those websites that fall under those categories, those purposes. Information websites. What is an information website? These websites provide users with a repository of historical and current information, such as news as it happens around the world. Other websites provide information in the forms of encyclopedia, training, general education, and so on. So, for example, Wikipedia, MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, and so on. Their purpose is to provide information. Next, we have community building or social networking websites. This is what you guys are mostly familiar with. These websites focus on social interaction of people who want to communicate with others and share common interests. Users share personal details, pictures, events with friends, families, acquaintances, and so on. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Flickr, all of those websites, they're called social networking websites. Or they can also be called community building. Why they're called community building is because when you're on the internet and you basically form this kind of group of persons that have a particular interest. Like for instance, we know how like on WhatsApp you can get groups, on Facebook you can get groups. I'm not sure if on Instagram you can get groups, but most of these social networking sites you can basically create a group or a page, and what happens, what you're basically doing, you're creating or forming a group on a central idea, a central purpose. Maybe it's for what? Because you like a certain celebrity, so you're gonna talk about this celebrity, or you like a certain product, a certain brand of a product, so you form this group to talk about which one is good, which one is bad, and compare it to others. What you're basically doing there, you're building what is called online community. So you're building this kind of community whereby these group of persons are having this particular interest, this one singular interest. So that there is considered a community. So that is why these social networking sites can be called a community building site, because they build that interest in persons, whereby these persons with similar interests can now come together despite wherever they're located. The next purpose of a website, we have academic or professional. Now, users share their resumes, portfolios, career accomplishments online for potential employers and clients. So, for example, you have LinkedIn, Academia, ResearchGate. So you guys can actually make use of these services here. It's a free service whereby it allows you to put up all of your accomplishments, everything that you would have done, all of your studies, all of your working experience, and basically any person can check this website, any company. The companies are actually going to be on this website, and what they're going to do, they're going to check these profiles, check these accounts to see what information you would have put up, to see if it matches any one of their job description, and they would send you a request through that platform to see that how your qualifications meet our requirements, and they would like to interview you for this particular job. So it's a method whereby and it's not only for Guyana, because you can actually post to LinkedIn, and other companies in other countries can actually see your qualifications and show their interest in you. So it's kind of like a social media, a social networking site, because you can interact with other persons, you're posting your content and so on. But the main purpose of it is for professional use. It's for letting persons know that this is your achievements, and companies can know now if you're suitable to work in a particular position. Our next type of website, we have personal or blogs. So personal websites are created and owned by individuals who share their personal profiles, specific interests. These websites are weblogs, which is blogs is a shortened version of weblogs. For those who may not have known that, so blogs is a shortened version of weblogs. You should take note of that. Um, these websites are weblogs or blogs, generally online diaries, journals, or editorials that reflect whatever is going on in the writer's life or business. So the writer may even comment on politics, news, share personal opinions, and so on. So a blog, that's basically a person writing about their interests. If their interest is their life, they're writing about their life. If their interest is about plants, they're writing about plants on this particular website. So please don't confuse it with a social networking site. Um, a blog is basically, the main purpose of it is for persons to read the content, for persons to share their content in a text form. That's most cases of blogs. Some blogs would have pictures inside of it, but we have a blog called a vlog, which is more for videos. So you gotta remember those differences. A blog is more text based, but it can have pictures inside of it, can have some audio. And we have a vlog, which is strictly video. Let me see if there's a name for an audio blog. An audio blog is a weblog that includes song files, but compared to podcasts, these can be recorded as audios. Okay, I'm not seeing. Okay, so according to Wikipedia, apparently it's called audio blog. Can be called a podcast, but I wouldn't want to call it a podcast. We'll stick to audio blog. So audio blog is a blog with vocal recordings as its central part, or may refer to podcast. So audio blog versus podcasts. An audio blog may include a series of podcasts, while podcasting does not include audio blogging, if you get what you're saying. Because a podcast is basically audio stream. And remember, a blog is sharing a particular interest. So that's why a podcast can include audio blog, because this podcast, this audio stream, you can share your interests, but the podcasting does not include audio blogging. This last part here, it doesn't mean you have to talk about your interests. It's not entirely about audio blogging. It could be about, you can podcast about news, about a new product that is coming out, something else that is not about particular interest. Audio blog is a blog that includes sound files, but compared to podcasts, audio blogs can be recordings, a spoken journal, etc. Sound files can be recorded and uploaded to the blog. So it's like a slight difference there between audio blog and podcasts. But don't confuse blog sites with social networking sites. Alright, so our next type of website, we have mobile websites. Now these websites are ideal for mobile devices. Have any of you ever noticed that if you use your computer to view a website and then you use your phone to view that same website, it actually looks different? Any of you ever noticed that?
Yes, sir.
Well, the reason for that is actually because of screen size. That's one of the main difference here. Screen size. Obviously, your laptop, your desktop, the screen is much larger, so they can make use of this all of this space that they have here to add the various parts to the website. But when it comes to your phone, when it comes to your tablet, they cannot do that, because if they did, it would be very tiny. All of the parts would be very tiny, and you won't be able to select anything. You might actually be clicking on multiple things at the same time. So, when it comes to mobile devices, website developers actually have to create a different layout for the mobile device so that they can be able to use the mobile version just as easy as the desktop based version. So mobile websites, they're a slight variation to the website. They try to actually make it similar, but just that it won't be exactly similar because of the screen size and layout and so on. So these websites are ideal for mobile devices and are often offered as an alternative to the normal version of a website when connecting with a mobile device. Their content is viewed better on a narrow screen width, and it actually uses less data. So that's another benefit of using a mobile website, because some persons are using data as their internet connection, so they have to make this mobile website in such a way that it takes less data when they are browsing. Now, what you guys can do is that, how many of you have Google Chrome as a browser on your phone? Alright, so, well, the Samsung browser also has it. I'm pretty sure if you got an iPhone, Safari should have it also. If you open the Google Chrome browser, and you have a tab open, and you can browse anywhere, go and Google something, Google anything. At the top right hand corner, you're gonna see three dots, and when you click on that three dot, you're gonna see at the very bottom there's a desktop site, and there's a checkbox next to it. So what you're actually seeing right now, because this box is not checked, you're actually seeing the mobile version of that website. You're seeing the mobile version of Google. And if you were to check this box now, you're actually going to see the desktop version. So you can actually try that. But if you're using the Samsung browser, it's basically the same process. You look for the settings, and you're going to see there is an option for desktop sites. Pretty sure Safari should have it also, because the some websites they kind of function better with that desktop version. So even on your mobile phone, you can actually use the desktop version, but if you actually check it out, you can notice that the interface gets very tiny. If you ever see the desktop version on your phone, the interface gets very tiny. Anybody tried it?
Sir, I can't find it.
The three dots at the top, or look for the settings. The option is going to take you to settings, and you're going to see desktop sites in that menu. I'm looking for image. Yeah, it should look something like this here. So you should see an option like this here, with a box here, desktop site, and you just check this box. Or some would have request desktop site. You're just looking for this particular word in the settings, desktop site, or in the menu, and it's going to show you the desktop version of that site. And when it does, you're going to notice that it's very tiny. I was actually looking for an image. Show you. Either way, so that is how you can see the mobile and the desktop version on your phone. And our final type of website, we have Directories website. Now these websites are a type of online directory. However, instead of searching alphabetically, users can search terms, phrases in a search engine. So for example, Yellow Pages, Google, Bing, and so on. Those are directory websites. They allow you to search for information. Alright, so what have we looked at today? Today we looked at the categories of websites. We looked at what is a static website, what is an editable brochure, what is a dynamic website, what is an e-commerce website, and what is a web app, what is a web application. Then we looked at the first step in developing a website. Your first step is planning what is the purpose of your website. We're actually going to look at that. Your first step is actually supposed to state what is the reason, but the reason is kind of like the purpose. And then finally we looked at what are the other types of websites that you can create: entertainment, corporate, social networking, and so on. Any questions before we close?
No, sir.
Alright. If no questions from anyone, that'll be it for today's class. Enjoy the rest of your day.